Digby Scott, what's in your mind?
I'm inspired by something you said to me last week.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're having a beer on Friday, and you said to me, I got this call from this senior leader who was really impressed that I said I don't write proposals, I don't put in any competitive bid stuff, right? You work with me, you don't. And she really liked that. Hey?
It's why she hired me, because someone else said that I wouldn't bid for their work. It was quite funny.
So that got me thinking, right? I loved it. I thought, that's so cool. And what got me thinking is this distinction between transactional and partnership, right? Because I think when we're looking for someone, we go, I need 3 quotes, I need to go out to and get who's the best. That then starts to become a transactional mindset, which I think can erode a bunch of stuff. Whereas I think where your person was coming from was, I want the right person, she's the right person, and I don't care about the process so much because what I want is a partnership. Now, I'm making a bit of that up, but this distinction between where are we coming from in our relationships with people? Is it partnership or is it transactional, get shit done?
My thought on this is, what value do you need out of a relationship or a partnership?
Yeah.
And then how do you design your interactions to get that value? Because one of the reasons that I don't like to bid for work, and I very rarely do it, is because what it usually comes with is a whole lot of prescription about how they think they need things done.
Correct.
And what I always tell them is, you will get the most value from me by having a conversation about what you're trying to achieve, and I can help you to design the process to get there. If you've already figured it out and you go, Alicia, I need you to run these 3 workshops and here's how they go, first of all, you're going to be a nightmare of a client, so I don't want to have that conversation anyway. But second of all, that's not where I add the most value.
Yeah.
And so how do we design our relationships, whether it's commercial or whether it's personal, so that actually everybody's bringing their best?
Right. So you've said something, I think, which is spot on here, which is how do we design our relationships, not just go, what's the contract?
Yeah.
Right. So it's way beyond the contract. In fact, you don't need a contract if you've designed your relationship right, because that's the investment in the trust, in the getting the clarity of the highest outcome that we both want and how we both add the value, right? What stops us from doing that? And you could say, oh, there's rules, there's procurement rules, and there's all these things. But your lady's like, nah, I'm not going to worry about that stuff.
No. And speaking from a position of privilege here, because generally the rules of sourcing or procurement allow you to directly appoint someone that's a particular specialist or that is quite a unique offering. So I'm totally aware that part of the reason I get to have those conversations is because I'm not selling widgets.
Yep.
It's because I offer quite a unique service. And so that's really cool. But actually I think there's a lot of stuff that stops us, and it's usually about fear and control.
It's all about fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you allow someone to bring their best to anything, then you're saying, I'm willing to let go of what that should look like and trust that you can make it happen.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So this idea of partnership, I think, it's ironic, right? Because if you get rid of all that process stuff and you go, okay, what is the outcome we want really? What's the real problem we're trying to solve? And how do we best work together and design that relationship? Ironically, you're getting rid of all that control stuff, you actually get such a better outcome, right?
Oh, totally.
It's funny though, because I think one of the things that gets in the way is often partnership feels slower. And I'll give you an example. So So there's a colleague I'm working with at the moment, and we spent must have been Friday morning, and we were sitting down and we were working through this thing we're doing together. And I found myself starting to get frustrated because we were working through it, but then we're having all these kind of, not arguments, but we're like, what about this? What about that? And I was like, I thought our conversation might take half an hour, and we're like there an hour later and we're still only halfway through. And then she said to me, yeah, it is frustrating, but we're going to get such a better outcome as a result of working through this properly and getting all these different perspectives on it. And I'm like, you're right. And this is something I have to learn, is that transactional is faster, but I'm not going to get that quality outcome or indeed the quality relationship.
Sometimes it's appropriate to be transactional.
Of course it is.
And I think what I find difficult when I work in the public sector, and I often talk about the difference between partnerships and relationships, because we talk a lot about partnering and about collaboration. And sometimes it's A, not what we want, and B, not what we need.
We don't need it.
No, we don't need it. Sometimes you need to make good decisions quickly in your own area of expertise and have the mandate and the freedom to make it happen. A partnership, what makes a partnership distinct from a relationship is that you both have skin in the game. And often your skin is actually that you've released some of that control.
That's right.
And what makes collaboration different to teamwork is that it's people bringing different skill sets to combine to make something new, whereas a team can just be people that know the same things, right? So yes, it will be slower. It doesn't have to be, and here's where I think partnerships get a bad name though, particularly like public-private partnerships, PPPs, right? We were trying to do collaborative procurement or alliances and that kind of stuff. And it falls over because you lose the scaffold. So it's like, cool, we need to know exactly which element of value am I bringing, what are you bringing, right? So what are we bringing to this, and what's our what's our sandpit? And also what's the scaffold around how we get there? And we do need a scaffold because otherwise, like you say, you get 6 weeks in and all you've done is just generate ideas.
And you've just had lots of hooeys and it's like, great, yeah. So I also think that there's something about that appropriateness, which is right. And I think if you think of, I don't know if you know Dave Snowden's Cynefin model, when he talks about simple problems, complicated, complex, and then chaotic. And I reckon when you're in the chaotic, where there's no linear solution, there's no expert who can say, come and do this, it's messy, it's complex, and it's just, there's no way through that's obvious. That's where something like a partnership is so much more powerful.
Well, you almost kind of have to because there's no right answer.
Yeah, so you've got to create it together, right?
And so actually what I like about partnering in complex problem solving is if we've already accepted there's unlikely to be a right answer, then the criteria shifts from what's the best answer to what can we get people most engaged in delivering.
And
then you have to collaborate because it all depends on whether they're actually going to get involved.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like it. That means wrap it up.
So when it comes to designing relationships or partnerships, whether you're thinking personally or commercially or at work, are you clear on who's bringing what value? And are you getting the best? Are you getting the best result? Are you delivering the best process? Depending on what you need.
Just a little thought. We're a partnership.
Aww.
We're not a transactional thing.
Digby, it's time to go.
Yeah, good. Fill in your timesheet, Alicia.